Whenever I ask photographers what it takes to break into the industry and land those big set jobs, the answer is almost always the same. You need a recognizable face in your portfolio. And for Ben, that moment came with a single shot of Idris Elba, an image that opened the door to an ongoing collaboration with Sky. Ben, this is the second time we're here.
Yes.
I fucked up the first time. I record video but not the audio, so we are in your house in Northampton.
Yes.
Reshooting this.
Thank you for coming all this way.
Mate, it's a lovely house, and the areas where it's lovely, man. I just can't believe how nice this is down here, and it's so handy as well. You're like an hour from London.
Yeah.
An hour from Birmingham. Like I'm from London. It's just one motorway straight.
Yeah.
It's
a great thing about Northampton. It's just easy to get everywhere.
Unbelievable, and as well, like it's really close to one of your clients as well that we're gonna touch base a little bit later on. Mm-hmm. But I just think it's a well-rounded location, and I'm happy for you that you're here, man. Let's rewind the clock to Ben, 17-year-old Ben, 18-year-old Ben.
Yeah.
Blonde-dyed hair.
Yeah.
Ben. Ben with a 1DX cameras?
1D Mark III to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what were you doing? What were you shooting before then? Before you became a unit still photographer?
So before unit stills, I did a lot of sports work. I was shooting on my dad gave me my first camera, which I kind of remember what it was. It was a very old school Canon. And from that, probably whatever the two models before the 5D. I think probably before that was the camera I was using. From that, went on to a 1D Mark III, and I was shooting a lot of sports. I was building up a sports portfolio by following my brother around because he was a rugby player at the time. So I would go and follow him to all his games at the weekend and shoot.
Delivery!
Sorry. That's fine, they're going. There we go. I then met this incredible photographer called Linda Dawson, who took me under her wing, let me shadow her for a while, and I was photographing at Northampton Saints Rugby Club. And I would do some of the home games, but mostly a lot of the away games. And my images would have to be edited, delivered to the Chronicle and Echo newspaper straight away for Monday morning press. And she kind of showed me the ropes on shooting sport and doing those kind of quick edits. And she also let me she had I think it was either 300 or 400 millimeter fixed 2.8 lens, which back then, those things were massive. So getting to use one of those and... that was then like kind of my setup for quite a while, shooting that, kind of going into that sports route. Because this was back then I didn't even know unit stills was a thing. I didn't even find out about unit stills until I went to university. So sports was the route I originally thought I was going to take.
How do you get that first 1D body?
The 1D Mark III?
Yeah.
So that was through, so as well as sports, I also worked for the Chronicle and Echo. This is back when people used to buy newspapers, and I would do like the odd job, kind of the odd thing. I think I've photographed like a hairdressers in Northampton opening and odd little random local stories like that. I also did kind of weddings. I would do just family and friends weddings for like, much cheaper just to gain experience, and kind of built up that to then get the 1D Mark III, which was one of the best Canon cameras at the time you could use, yeah. But then I then used that camera for like the next 5-6 years, yeah.
But do you buy it brand new?
I bought it from Fixation in London.
Okay, I didn't know that was a place.
Yeah, it's a camera shop that quite a lot of people have gone to in a while. I couldn't tell you. This was so long ago. I think it might have been either I got it slightly cheaper because it was a display model, or I don't know if it wasn't brand new, but that had a battering. That was with me for, many, many years, that camera.
And so from a small camera, you went into a professional body to shoot sports. Were you using, but you didn't buy the lens. You were
I was borrowing Linda's
lenses.
Glass. Yeah. And she kind of showed me the ropes. She was fantastic. Without her, I wouldn't have then got to meet the contacts I made at Northampton Saints. I became really good friends with Bruce Rehana, who was the current captain and was then his official testimonial year photographer, and worked a lot with him. So that was a fantastic kind of grounding into sports photography, but it's nowhere near like it is now. Like we were still like go home and edit the pictures ready for Monday morning press. Now sports photographers, they're all hardwired in through they're editing the images there and then straight away immediately.
And they send the images to the desk, and the desk kind of edits them.
So whereas back then it wasn't as, social media wasn't really a bigger thing yet.
And how many years did you do sports?
Right from when Cameron started playing rugby, and I was photographing him all the way through till before I then went to university. So a good 5 years. And
this is, you were how old?
So I started when I was like 14, 15. Then I went to university when I was 18.
All of that time was just rugby with your...
just rugby and anything else really, or any other sports that I could shoot. Mostly rugby, because Northampton's a rugby town. It's our main sport.
Okay. And what happened after uni then?
So I went to university. When I was in my final year of uni, I then discovered unit stills. I didn't know it was a thing. I went to the University of Kent, which had a student-run TV and radio channel called KTV.
Okay.
And they were shooting some like ultra low budget student films. And I got to know some of the people on it through my course. And they asked if I would come take some pictures because they knew I was a photographer and I'd shot some of the theatre shows. Hadn't shot on set or film or TV before. And that was when like I spent an evening just deep diving on Google and then discovering this job. I didn't know unit stills was a thing before then.
Okay.
Was shooting still on the 1D Mark III, and I didn't get my 1DX.
But wait, do you have two bodies for the sports or only one?
I only had the one body,
okay,
the sports, and I would just be flicking constantly between the 70 to 200 and the 400 or the 300mm fixed.
Well, in and out?
Yeah, changing lenses depending on what was going on.
Damn.
Because I only had the one body. But yeah, then I didn't have the blimp yet.
Okay.
I bought the blimp after I did one day on set on this really low budget student film called Encryption.
Yeah.
And obviously, clicking was loud. I'd spent the whole day Googling, and that's when I then discovered the Aquatech sound blimps.
How do you discover them? Because even when I was starting out in 2020, it took me a while to find out the name of it, because I seen the Aquatech blimp because I had the Game of Thrones book.
Mm-hmm. Helen Sloan,
yeah, Helen Sloan. The last picture on the book is Helen. It's a setup that she did on set with the other photographer that was helping her out, and I saw like 3 or 4 professional Nikon bodies inside the blimp, and I said, "What's that?" And I started digging out, and I found out that there was this thing called a blimp, because if you type in blimp in Google, it comes the blimp that you use for outdoor sound equipment. Yeah. So how do you know the name? How do you find out about the name of that? Because we're talking. My research was done in 2020, where there was more of a popularity among like stills photographer. Peaky Blinders has been released, Game of Thrones has been released, but back in 2012.
So this was 2014, my final year of uni. Yeah,
2014. How do you find out about blimp?
Just Googling. I was Googling everything. I was buying every book I could find.
Yeah.
Because obviously I knew that the camera was loud. It was a problem because mirrorless wasn't there yet, or there wasn't a good enough mirrorless camera to be used yet. So it was just deep diving on Google, going through all this different photographers' websites. There's the Alex Bailey book, the Unit Stills Photography book.
Yeah.
Like getting that.
Yeah.
YouTube. I would go on YouTube and search like B-roll, BTS, watch behind the scenes featurettes, and would see it. And I learned about the Jacobson blimp first.
Yeah.
But that's like quite difficult to get hold of. Yeah, the square boxes. I think he literally specially makes them, or used to. So I knew that wasn't going to be an option. I then discovered the Aquatech one by just Googling and all the different research I could find.
Well, the Aquatech is a combination of Jason speaking with Aquatech.
Yes,
because Jason used to use the what's it called, Robinson or Robinson?
The other one,
the square ones. And he said that they were like really uncomfortable. So after like having a chat with Aquatech, I don't know how that, because I listened to that in a podcast that Jason was explaining how that relationship is starting to build. And he said, well, we need like a blimp. And they were making like water blimps. So they're already
halfway there. Yeah,
they're like,
underwater housing. Yeah.
Yeah, because the only difference is that the blimps, this one, it only has foam on it.
Yeah.
But the whole system outside is exactly what they were making already.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you just
So
needed
many
to,
people. When I
you
first
just
started
needed to
turning
put
up,
like foam on it.
yeah,
and
when I
done.
first started turning up to set with those, so many crew would ask me what it was, and they'd be like, "Why have you brought like an underwater housing onto the set?" Especially because I saw the Aquatech logo.
Yeah, exactly.
So then had to explain. But yeah, I never could get the buttons to line up on the back. It was still difficult to use.
This is blamed for. It's especially for the 1DX.
Yes, that one's especially for the 1DX. Yeah.
But do you put the 1DX here or you put the 1DX3?
I had two. So I had two of those.
Okay.
One with the 1D Mark III in it and one with the 1DX in it. And then would have a 2470 and a 7200.
Where do you buy this blimp?
So that was also from Fixation in London.
Do you buy a new?
Yeah, they didn't have used. They only had a new.
This is what funny is about it, because you bought brand new specifically for 1DX bodies,
Yes.
but the buttons don't line up.
The buttons don't line up, no. I could never get them to properly
Wow,
line up.
the condition of this inside is like immaculate. I mean, if I show you mine, man, the foam inside is just...
The cable's busted though. The cable used to come loose all the time. Yeah, they are a nightmare piece of kit to use, but you had to use them. You had no choice because it was the only way to get the shutter noise down.
I really thought, because my blimp was made for the 5D Mark III, I really thought that because I was using a 5D body, that was my mistake. But now that you had a 1DX and this was a 1DX blimp and it doesn't line up, so I think that there has to be
I couldn't get it
a
to
manufacturer.
work, yeah. I would open the blimp, assess the scene, kind of have my settings as good as I thought, and then lock it in and then just hope.
One of the issues that I have, well, it happens exactly the same. My first couple of films, I find out about the blimp. So I bought my blimp from Japan. I paid like £300. When I arrived to the UK, I had to go to Royal Mail and pay tax on top of it, which was like another £100. So I spent like £500 on a blimp.
Ouch.
And which at the time it was the same price as my 2470 Mark I on Canon. So it was the £500, exactly the same price for this. Now holding this, it just brings me back memories of mine. That it's just how massive and thick it is, and how uncomfortable it is to carry this. And this is for professional bodies, and mine was uncomfortable already. So imagine carrying two of
those. Yeah, my back used to be in pieces by the end of the day. Yeah. And then to go from that to, so my first mirrorless camera was Fujifilm. So you imagine how much the relief, these tiny light little cameras, yeah.
And they have no grips, the Fuji's, isn't it? The grip is rubbish.
Well, yeah, I got an XT2 and an XT3. I don't think I bothered with grips, yeah, to start with.
Yeah, but the XT2, what about rolling shutter when you shoot in mirrorless?
Yeah, probably was, this is going way back. I think I very quickly then bought the XH1 for Fujifilm.
Is that better?
I think it was slightly better, but still a problem. But I kind of then went to, as each model came out, the XT4. Yeah. And I stayed with Fuji for a long, long time. And I loved those cameras. The only issue ever with them I ever found was the autofocus would sometimes be hit and miss.
And battery.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but battery, yeah. But you just have like a whole bag of those. You just burn through them, yeah.
Absolutely rubbish, the batteries.
Yeah, so I kind of used the blimp for quite a while, yeah, until I then went to Fuji. But the blimp was fantastic because, so kind of when I was first starting out in unit stills, I contacted Amy Spinks to just ask some questions, kind of learn more about this world and learn more about getting contacts. And I think she saw, because I already had invested in a sound blimp and I had them, that she was then okay and willing to meet up and talk to me, because she kind of seen that I'd already heavily invested into this kit.
Yeah.
And Amy, even to this day, has still been awesome help.
How much did you pay for the blimp back then?
I can't remember. It's 2014, 2015.
Was it really expensive?
They were quite expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember them being quite expensive. Yeah.
How do you...
now they're just bookends.
Yeah, I use mine for that. How do you find out about Amy?
Google. Just Googling constantly. I was in Birmingham quite a lot anyway, because my partner, Becky, that's where she's from. And so I came across her portfolio and her website. And I think this was around the time she was... I think the Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy image had maybe just come out, or was it around that time?
She was coding for Jay.
Yeah. She was doing some big stuff, and she was very kind to meet up with me and offer me some advice. So, and she's been very kind to recommend me for jobs ever since. But I found just constantly, or just every night, Googling and finding as many different. I would just find every UK based unit stills photographer I could and find them. As soon as you found them, their website, add them on social media, and then go from there.
How was your first experience on set?
Yeah, I was very, very green when I started off. So one of probably the biggest things I first worked on was Starfish,
Okay.
which was a independent feature
Yeah.
with Joanna Froggatt, I believe her second name, and Tom Riley.
Man,
All the mistakes you...
This is a lot of pages on your IMDb, I tell you that.
Yeah, the mistakes you make when you first start off, like shooting every single take because you think something different's going to happen, like needing to learn to know once you've got it in the in the can, walk away.
Oh my God, 100%.
Sometimes I think I was in eyeline a couple times. Yeah, the mistakes you make when you start off, because you're reading this in books. You're then sometimes speaking to photographers, but other than that, you're pretty much learning on the job. So I think going back, there were probably some of the mistakes I made on set, but I got work that I was very happy with coming from that as my first major film.
Do you get any like bad feedback back then? Like, oh Ben, you shouldn't be here in terms of like where you were.
No, not
like
necessarily.
you say,
They were very
island,
kind.
or they were all kind of understanding that you were learning because you haven't had that much experience.
Yeah, and I think that reflected in the rate. I don't think I got paid the full rate as a still photographer would now. Yeah, they were very understanding. If there was any point where I'd maybe shot one take too much, the director Bill would just come over to me and just be like, "Yeah, maybe just stand down for this one."
Okay.
Yeah, so which was fine. All the first AD would say, "Yeah, just stand down for this one." But yeah, so back then I thought like I was always afraid of missing something.
Okay.
Probably shot more BTS than unit as well, and that's probably now flipped back around. I probably now shoot more unit than BTS.
Well, I was in the same. My first ever film was a short film. I traveled from Bristol to Coventry, and I thought we just have to capture BTS, and so just one day I delivered like 800 images, final images of just mainly BTS and not many stills.
Yeah.
And after that I had a conversation, I had a one-to-one with Amy, and she said, "Do you know the difference about BTS and stills?" And I said, "No, I thought they were the same thing."
I think we were talking. You said you deliver your images all in one folder from the day, and I was saying, well, I divide mine. I split them into a unit folder and a BTS folder.
That's yeah, exactly. But at the beginning, we transferred them, the whole lot of just JPEGs, and just be done with it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny that after I had the chat with Amy, I had a clear vision, and I asked Luke as well, do you know the difference between BTS and stills? And he said, yeah. I said, how do you know the difference? There is, I mean, and I was trying to read online, and there is no clear difference of you are there to replicate images of what the camera captures just on a higher quality, and the BTS is secondary. I didn't know that. I thought it was all one thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It was all the research I did when I first learned about the role. I think it was knowing as well what the images were going to be used for.
How do you know that?
Yeah, but then even then, I think it was just through reading everything. But eventually meeting up with Amy as well, just Googling and reading everything I could find. But sometimes it is rare, but sometimes a BTS shot does make it as a unit shot. It is rare, but it does happen sometimes. Yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of Jason shares a lot of BTS stuff that is pretty big stuff that he shows. The amount of money the production put into
huge stunts. Yeah.
On Helen's book, there is a lot of BTS as well when it comes to like the big fights or the big sets.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the book of Aiden's book about the Northman, there are a few like BTS shots that reveals the whole.
Yeah, because when you're shooting BTS, you're trying to show the production value. You're trying to show that, look, they've spent a lot of money making this. You want to show like the scale of it. So yeah, it's important to capture that as well. But yeah, your unit, you want to try and get your unit in the can first. I don't know. I like to make sure I've got a good few unit. But then you obviously BTS, it happens throughout the day. But yeah, I will want to make sure I've got my unit shots. But then every set's different. It depends on what kind of access you're getting. Yeah, it depends. Are you allowed to shoot takes? Are you not? Are you only shooting rehearsals? I think it kind of depends. You kind of negotiate on set what access you're going to get.
There was another film. Who was a photographer on Blonde for Netflix? You remember? Oh, I follow him on
the Atomic Blonde.
No, Blonde. The biography of I can't remember the name now. But anyway, there were a few BTS shots of Blonde or Blonde. No, Blonde is a band. Blonde is a film. That they made it into like Netflix social as well, showing the sets because they were like taken back to the 80s.
See, that's changed throughout my career because social media wasn't a thing so much when I first started off, whereas now it's huge, the demand for images for social media. So I think, you do see BTS now. I mean, look at something like Adolescence. Like, I've never seen a show that's come out now because it was all shot in one take.
Yeah.
And like, everyone wants to know, well, how did you do that? How did you do that? I've had to release as much BTS material as well as Unit because everyone wants to know how they did it.
But Adolescence is not the first show that gets shot all in one take. There were films as well shot in one take. I remember there was a war film as well shot all in one take, or it made it look like it was one take. I can't remember the name of it.
No, 1917. And then they also did that production company before Adolescence as well, did the chef one, didn't they? The chef program
Boiling
was shot in one
Point.
take. Yeah,
Boiling Point. Boiling Point. It's funny because
it's Ben Blackall who did all the stills for that as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure about Boiling Point though.
No, I don't know about Boiling Point. I know he did all the Adolescence.
I've been talking to Ben as well to trying to get him on a show, but he's like really busy with other stuff. And eventually as well, I would like to speak with Barantini because he was a chef for a long time up until 2017 and 18 that he was able to direct Boiling Point, and I just feel really like at home with Boiling Point and with Barantini's because I was a chef as well for 10 years before doing any of the stills that I gave up, and I said I'm not going anywhere with my chef and life, so I just might. So
you went from one stressful environment to another one.
Yeah, but it's different because the passion is there, you know. I get really excited when I'm in set and when I have my camera. My camera it gives me a lot of confidence holding a camera, and like it's easy for me as well to talk to people if I have my camera because there is a point to break the ice sort of thing. I don't know how you feel. I'm quite. If I have to, for example, when it comes to events like networking events and stuff like that. If I don't have my camera, it's like, how do you break the ice? Sort of thing.
I get what you mean. Yeah,
and that in that way, my camera helps me a lot with that. But anyway, this is about you and your Still's journey. And so where do you go from after Starfish? Because before Starfish, I have Confusion of Tongues, Encryption, Adam in the Sky, Imagine Myland.
Yeah, so a lot of these were all low budget or short films or National Film Television School films.
Okay.
So these were
a
all
lot of
building
indie work.
Building a portfolio. So trying to get as many shots as possible to build up a portfolio. So a lot of these, other than Starfish, didn't have huge or recognizable faces in them of actors. That was probably something that was missing from my portfolio at that time. But that was just gaining as much set experience as possible, working on all of those and just traveling, probably working for reduced rate or expenses only, sadly, but that's just kind of the nature of it is when you first start out.
And how do you look for these jobs back then?
Back then, I was on a few different websites like Shooting People and things like that. I would find the odd job.
Yeah.
Facebook groups, like crew Facebook groups.
Oh, yeah.
And if I would see any crew call asking for any roles, not they wouldn't, because they probably normally wouldn't ask for a stills photographer.
No, they wouldn't have budget.
I would drop them an email and be like, look, by the way, have you thought about a stills photographer? Like, these are the reasons why you should have one. And they would normally sometimes then say yes, but go, right, but our budget is tight. So for that starting out bit, it would be either accepting what rate you could get or negotiating time. So let's say, I don't know, if they wanted you on set for 4 days but couldn't afford the rate you wanted, then go, right, well then can you pay me, can we only do 2 days and get the images you want? So, but that was the way I just started out, just emailing everyone I could find and getting onto these lower budget films to just build a portfolio.
Do you have a lot of luck with emailing people?
Sometimes, it would depend, Or as I slowly kind of went up, kind of gained more experience, I would know some crew. Okay. And that would help if you knew some crew already working on it. They could give you an in. But you just have to blanket fire emails to try and get that chance on set.
Is like within the fray Harvest, that Healing, that He Served the Empire. Are these all still on the indie side?
No, yes, these are all indie, but this is where things. I'd started to build up enough of a portfolio now, so I was demanding probably still not like a decent rate. I'd still be kind of
Well, at least they were like minimum wage sort of thing.
well, no higher than that. I'd still be like asking for. Well, we say that, then these hours can be like 15-hour days. So yeah, it does depend. Yeah, so I started, and this is also where I started to build up quite a few contacts now.
Yeah.
So I'd met actors or crew from other things, and kind of they recommended me or brought me on, or this was the start of where they were shooting something and they'd be contacting me, going, "Oh Ben, like we worked with you once on this. Like we're shooting this.
Yeah.
Can you come along and do some stills for us?"
And do you have like a real job back then?
So back then, I was working, yes, at the local theatre here in Northampton, the Royal in Derngate, behind the bar. I worked at a bowling alley as well, behind the bars, and an alley cat. So
how are you jiggling two things? Like, how were you able to make up for your time on set? Because it's not like you're not doing just dailies; you were doing like a few days.
yeah,
So how do you?
They clashed, and it did happen. I eventually lost the job at the theatre behind the bar because that was when we were filming Starfish, and I had to just go, "Sorry, I'm not coming to my shift today. They want me on set," and had to prioritise. And I know, well, there's enough bar work out there. I'll find another one. So I was doing that. To try and make extra money.
Yeah.
And then I was also working for a sports photography company called DE Photo, where you'd go to some, youth football tournament and you'd photograph like for 10 hours all day, all the matches, and you'd sell photos on site. So I worked for them, and that also helped pay for equipment and helped pay for general bills, and then living at home. Luckily, I was very fortunate to live at home with my mum and dad. So that helped massively with bills. And I was driving a very old 91 plate VW Polo, which got me about from job to job. So yeah, you just have to make things work, don't you?
Yeah. And so everything kind of same level sort of thing up until the big name that I recognize here is 2021 Rise of the Foot Soldier. Was Rise of the Foot Soldier a bigger step than what you were used to, and how did it happen to get that job?
Yeah, I got Rise of the Foot Soldier through a producer, Tiernan, who I had worked with before, and he contacted me and asked if I would come on set for a couple of days. And this was when COVID was still kind of happening, because we had to hotel bubble to shoot that.
Okay.
So that I had to drive down to Southend and then go into the hotel bubble to be able to shoot it. And like we had to have UV lights come into the room, the set, before any crew were allowed in, because apparently that got rid of the COVID or sanitized the room. Okay. The medic, and you go all your testing. So that was a bit of a step up. But the scenes I shot they were awesome. They were some really good stunts. But yeah, didn't feel like it was too much of a big step up. I was still comfortable on set. I knew what I was doing at that point. And in fact, even because the stunt we were shooting that day when I was on set was very gory and was quite intense, the actors called me to set. That was a lovely moment. The lead actor, Craig, I've forgotten to say his second name. He called me to set. He was like, "Where's the stills guy?" Because they really wanted pictures of this kind of cool, gory moment. So that was pretty awesome.
And were they shooting with 2 cameras? Or
the days I was on set for Rise of the Foot Soldier, I think it was all 1 camera for the time being. I think for the stills, the days I was on, it was 1 camera setup because it was quite small sets.
So you were like, comfortable. And so the color room.
Colour room, yeah, that was a good one. That was for Sky. I got that through Noel at the Sky Picture Desk. Yeah, I contacted him.
Well, like calling me?
Dropped him an email, and I got his contact information through Amy. Yeah. And I think I'd also been speaking to Gareth at this point, GG, and getting some advice from him. Yeah. Dropped him an email and just said, like, here's my portfolio. He then asked me to come and shoot a Sky Christmas day, and they had Idris Elba there, and he turned on the Christmas lights at the Sky campus. So I shot that for him. And then from that, I did Portrait Artist of the Year. I did an episode of that. And then, Colour Room.
That portrait of Idris is still on your website. Yeah. I looked at your website. You could update that. Yes, you could put newer pictures into it.
I've been very, very fortunate that I have got a lot of work through recommendations and through word of mouth. And I've got a lot of contacts in different crew. I've worked with a lot of different production companies. And so I haven't had to market myself much. Probably for the first time until this year, where things are quieter in the industry. Yeah. So my website is very out of date, and it's been on my to-do list to update it for a long time. But I've been fortunate enough that the same crew keep using me or bringing me onto different projects that I haven't needed to.
Do you get a lot of work from that single picture of Idris?
Yeah, Idris got me a lot of work for a while. That's why it's still there. That got me a lot of work for quite a while. I jumped onto a lot of different shows from that. And yeah, like Colour Room and that for
So
Sky.
Amy recommended you to Sky.
She didn't necessarily recommend me. She just kind of gave me Noel's contact. Yeah.
So you contacted Noel at Sky. He set you up to do the Idris Elba picture.
Yes.
And from there, you build a relationship with Sky, and they took you to the Colour Room.
Yes. Yeah.
So now you're not indie anymore. You are at a sort of higher level now, the Colour Room.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
From there, this is 2021. Rise of the Foot Soldier was 2021, and the Colour Room was 2021. So you only did 2 things in 2021.
Yeah, I think I was probably focusing more on my commercial work and corporate work because I wanted to go full-time freelance.
Okay.
And so I was also working a lot those years for, I've got 4 or 5 different production companies, even just around here in Northampton that I work with. So I was building up a corporate portfolio at the same time.
What's a corporate portfolio involved in?
So a lot of like TV adverts,
Okay.
or kind of marketing campaigns, or things that were going onto social media. So we did like a shoot for Man United. We did 2 of those, I think. Yeah, with a production company nearby here called AR Media. So kind of even still, very much still the exact same as working on a set. Just it was a commercial instead of a TV or a pilot or a film.
Is that where your video work comes as well? On your commercial background?
Yes. So I taught myself video and started doing video work because I saw a need for it.
Okay.
And I could do that in the commercial sector, could do that in that world, and saw that, on set you have an EPK person. So that is a role. So I thought it's another string to add to your bow. If you can also shoot video. And I think you've said to me before as well, you shoot stills and EPK on one job. Which is crazy. I think to do both.
It wasn't EPK. It was just documenting the behind the scenes of a film. So this was in April 2021. I think it was 2021 or 2022. We shot Melodrive, and the director is a friend of mine. And I had this cool idea of that. I wanted to advertise myself as a behind the scenes videographer because I have, like you, a hybrid setup.
Yeah.
And it's just another string to my bow, to be honest.
Exactly.
So at that time, Danny Gavertz, he filmed his first feature film, and he was in post-production of it, and he shot this really amazing YouTube video for how he shot his first feature film. He filmed for 3 weeks. Each episode was for like 30 minutes, an hour long, and he was documenting each week of the filming of the feature. And I went to Oscar and I said, I want to do this, for the feature film. And I said, the only thing I'm gonna need is your camera to film, because he just bought a 90D, and the 90D had like a more video centric features that I could actually use. So I had my 2 stills cameras with a 2470 7000, and I was having the third camera just to film the BTS and the kind of the making of. And I was really proud of what we done. Of course I had the access, of course I had the freedom, and the way that I was doing it was I was watching and sometimes filming rehearsals. When it came to takes, I knew that Oscar was always having at least 2 or 3 takes. So first and second take were my stills, because I had to prioritize that. So I was doing like the wide and the close up in between those. And my third take, it would be the BTS of filming the take and what the crew were doing and where they were, and just documenting all that process. And it was great, man. And I just filmed it, but someone else edited, and the way that they edited, it was similar to what Danny did. And I said, this is exactly what I had in mind to document the 3 weeks that we were filming.
So that
because
worked
like
because you had
downs.
a relationship already then. You knew how that director worked. You knew like you'd get a minimum of 3 takes.
Yes, and I've done a short film with Oscar before that. And I actually met him as a script supervisor on a film back in 2020. So I had already like a relationship with him. it screwed up with my brain, like 3 weeks of shooting and filming, because it's a lot of things that you have to be thinking of, and it's a lot of work. But I just find it really rewarding, and if they would come up to me and said, "Can you do this again?" I would definitely do it, because I have more experience and I'm more comfortable on what to shoot and what not to shoot, and I wasn't scared as well back then to ask for reshoot for not for a reshoot for the setup.
For setups, yeah.
And but it all comes with their own challenges. But I think that if we come to a bigger set, I don't know how it would behave.
I think that's where it does become two separate roles.
Yeah,
and also you like I said, you need to know the crew. The fact you had an existing relationship there probably is what made it possible. Yeah,
absolutely. And but I think that when it comes, I think that it can only work on the indie world.
Yeah,
it wouldn't work in any other level, because the responsibility is more, and there is more to cover. Sometimes you have to do like portraits and gallery days and stuff like that. There is no chance that you can think of all of that and put all that together as one person without anyone else helping you. But it's a cool experience. I mean, it's something else that I add to I made up a show reel as well.
Cool.
And this is I was doing I work with Luke. This is the first time I met Luke, and he was doing stills for the film. This was like a high-end short, and I was just doing the behind-the-scenes video for it. And that's the first time I worked with another stills photographer as well. And I'm just waiting for some of the clips that get released so I can add them to my
I
show.
think it's needed, especially right now where the industry is a bit quieter. I think having those extra skills are crucial if you're going to want to be kind of full-time self-employed freelance. I think it's anything that can help you get extra work. I think it's definitely should be doing it.
And Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, Peaky
2022.
Yeah. So COVID's still very much a thing.
Yeah, middle of COVID. You have dailies.
Yes. So
How was that? How do you get the job?
So I built up a relationship with the BBC, doing a few different productions. So first, I think was My Name Is Leon, which was directed by Lynette Linton. Loved that. That's probably still to this day one of my favourite things I've ever worked on.
Why is that? Why is My Name Is Leon such a big thing for you?
I just love it. Was a story I really loved. The crew were just amazing, so welcoming. The cast were really incredible. Like days where like we'd just be out in a field at the allotments in Birmingham with Christopher Eccleston. He was just making us all laugh, like just telling jokes. Then you've got Sir Lenny Henry there as well. He's also a brilliant comedian. Like Malachi Kirby in that as well was lovely. He let me kind of do setups, whatever I wanted. It was just a really pleasurable experience of working with no difficulties. And I loved the images that I got that were produced.
I see some of those in your website that are still there.
They're still there. Yeah, the one of Cole on the bike is one of my favourites. I just loved the work from it. So that was kind of the first where the relationship with BBC started. I even got invited to the premiere for that one, which was lovely to go and see all my images blown up and on like big screens.
That's really cool.
Banners was really cool. So that started it. I then did Caribbean Britain, which was like a documentary, which was with Sir Lenny Henry filming Dudley. So I kind of started.
Is that unscripted?
Yeah, that was like a documentary.
What do you do in unscripted stills?
BTS and they're looking for their thumbnails because the BBC need images for the thumbnails for iPlayer.
Yeah.
So shooting like a portrait of Lenny outside his house was things like that. I had a brief for the day, but they're looking for those thumbnail images basically. So that's where the BBC relationship started. And then, this is when kind of as COVID was coming to an end, like production was booming. There was not enough crew to go around, wasn't there? There was loads. And Peaky Blinders were filming at the Black Country Live Museum for season 6. Yeah. And this was Robert was doing it.
Yeah.
And I think they had one other photographer as well. And they were both unavailable. And so they were really happy with my work from My Name Is Leon. So they asked if I would jump in and cover and do the time at the Black Country Live Museum for Peaky Blinders. So I was on set I only did one day in the end. And the images, I think I've only had like maybe a handful released tops. But I mean, it's across the whole season. You're not going to get loads from one day.
Especially for one day, isn't it? And how many images are released from that?
I think 3, maybe 4.
That's
maybe
a lot for a day, and especially
Yeah.
the day that you were in. So how?
Yeah, and none of them are of Killian. None of my images of him got released, so I've got them just for me. Remember from my time on set,
Oh
but yeah,
my
none of them have
God.
been released.
And
But Peaky was it was intense. It was a really intense day because it was a funeral scene, and Helen had passed away recently. So,
yeah, because on your there is a clapperboard of Helen,
yes,
isn't
she was
it?
on the clapperboard, yeah, and so emotions were high. It was a very tense set. So yeah, that was tough day.
Was it hard?
Yeah,
Do you
it was.
feel-
Yeah,
do-
yes.
do you
And
feel-
also,
were you stressed, like-
yeah, sometimes 4 cameras filming, four angles at once, and
How do you deal with that?
I just got told to move a lot. I just got told even if I was in set, if I was in shot, they'd ask me to move, do setups instead. But I was trying to get what I could during takes. But even if like because I could say I would put myself next to the camera.
Yeah.
But
So
one of
if
the
they
other
see
cameras
you,
yeah.
they see you, they see the camera.
Yeah, but they can edit the camera out, I guess, in post. But they would put like a mesh, like the camouflage over the camera, and I would try and get as close as possible to that to shoot a take, but it wasn't happening. So I did a lot of setups in the end, shot a lot of BTS, and then where I could hide and shoot takes, I would shoot takes.
What I just feel like there is a lot of pressure when you turn up to a set like Peaky Blinders, first of all, after what happened with Helen. And
Yeah.
you had a really hard time, man.
Yeah, so
Especially for like you have to walk into a rolling set, which is already hard, and you have to deliver, and you have to get used to something that you were not there before, so you don't
something
know how
I would
it works.
advise if you're starting off as a stills photographer, one of the toughest things is doing this, working dailies when you're working with a crew that's already been working together for years.
Yeah, because
Peaky
you were in
people
season
had,
6 now,
or
yeah.
that point they were already well into season 6, so they'd already been working together for ages, and you're coming in as a brand new person. You've not met the cast, you've not met the crew, you don't know how they work, and you've only got potentially one day, maybe 2, and you've got to get your still. So that is tough. You've got to just kind of, you can't be nervous. You've just got to go in, introduce yourself, start talking to people, maybe spend a bit of time watching before you go in and start shooting.
Okay.
And just kind of learn, right, how are they operating here? Like, what are the rules? Speak to the first AD and find out, right, am I allowed to shoot takes, or is it going to be rehearsals only? Is it going to be setups only? But it's tough. And I remember as well, we were at Unit Base for Peaky, and we got a bus from Unit Base to take us down to set.
Yeah.
So I remember asking just like one of the crew, where does the bus pick us up from? And they just went, where it always does. I went like, well, cool.
Thanks, mate.
First day on set, so I don't know anything. So could you text notes? So it is tough. Yeah. When you do dailies, I did another film as well. I remember being in the crew bus, and it was their last day. It was the day they wrapped, and the photographer was unavailable, so I jumped into cover. And I think I remember overhearing one of the crew saying like, we won't bother even asking your name. We'll learn Nix's last day. We're never going to see you again. I was like, cool, sweet. But then that can be a superpower. You can also go like, so
Oh my
for
God.
example, on This Town, I was covering again on that for the BBC.
For Robert.
And one of my images got picked to be one of the first looks images. And I was only on set for one day. And
Wow.
I knew I was only on set for one day. So I wasn't too afraid then. I was like, right,
Yeah,
well,
so
I will
just-
stand here and I'm going to be
yeah,
right
fuck
here.
it, it's only one.
I'm
They
not here
find-
again, and I'll get the shot, and then I know I'm only one day cover. So
Yeah,
it can
fuck
work
it.
both ways. But obviously, you don't want to intentionally annoy people.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I feel like, I've had a first AD say to me before, like, if you're a stills photographer and you don't get told off at least once, then you aren't doing your job right.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. If you're gonna push it at least once, maybe to get that image. It's gonna happen inevitably at one point in your career. You will get told off. Yeah.
It's fun. Well, it's funny that you say that, because I just coming from finishing a feature, and we were in a basement. The location was amazing. I don't think it was the best day to get still photographer in, because this living room is massive than the set that we were filming, but it was really tight. It looked absolutely amazing. The amount of effort that are put into set dressing and stuff like that, it was just something else. But yeah, they were shooting a different angle, and the actress was coming straight to me, and I was in the bloody island.
Oh, straight in the eye line.
Straight in the island, and I wasn't even looking. By the end, I said that day, I'm just gonna style my hair, not wear a hat, and just go with it, The day I don't wear my hat, I was in the island,
Oh no.
and she was looking straight at me, even though I had my camera like down to my eye.
Yeah, yeah,
She said, "You're distracting me."
yeah,
And I said, "Oh, for fuck."
yeah.
Hey.
It happens. I've been caught.
And I
in
never
eye
said, you know
line,
what? I
yeah.
said, "Thank you." Okay, that's not me. I just
Just
move.
leave straight away.
I
Yeah.
just leave it straight away and wait for
Yeah.
the next one. Really.
Yeah. I've been caught in island before, and if you do it, you notice it happens. Just don't drop your camera. Keep the camera up and stay. Freeze, or even I'll leave my camera up, but I'll be purposely looking at the floor,
Yeah.
so they can tell I'm not taking images. And
okay.
and just freeze.
That's a top tip.
And then then immediately leave set. Wait, let them have a couple takes, come back. Yeah.
And how did the relationship with BBC started?
How did it start? It might
Because
have been,
you did my name is Leon. That was BBC, but before that you haven't done anything for them. So how did
I've
that
done like one
relationship?
I've done one random bits of documentary in Northampton. I think it might have probably through Amy. I think this was because this was all filming him in Birmingham. So I think they contacted Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Amy was unavailable, or she was building her image approvals business. So she was then very kind to recommend me. Then I just kind of slowly then met more and more people throughout the BBC, because then we did the TV series. We did Champion as well.
Okay.
Which was all filmed in Birmingham for the BBC. So it was just kind of then through that recommendation by Amy, and then I slowly met more and more people.
The Chris and Rosie Ramsey, is that
Yes.
BBC? Oh no.
Yes, that was BBC.
That's unscripted as well,
yeah,
isn't
so
it?
this is a completely different side of shooting unit stills, because this is more than my broadcast work, where you're then working on TV sets, like in London, and it's like filming instantly for broadcast. So The Last Leg, which is Channel 4, and the Chris and Rosie Ramsey show. So I got both of those through a photographer called Ellis O'Brien. I'm probably not saying his second name right. I got in contact with him, and he needed cover. So he then brought me in to shoot these. But it's very, very different to shooting on unit stills, because you're not doing like takes. Yeah, you're just kind of...
No, it's unscripted. You're just
shooting what's in front
documenting
of you,
one thing.
And you've got, 5 or 6 broadcast cameras flying around you. And so...
This is what I was talking to Anna yesterday filming her episode, and she was saying she done a lot of unscripted as well, and for Netflix. And there was one of the show where they had like... She said 20 cameras. Of course, it's not going to be like 20 cameras, but it gets to a level where you're always going to be in a camera.
Yeah.
You're always going to get picked up by one of them.
Yeah.
And it's unscripted, so there's nothing you can do.
Oh, yeah. I would just be in fully all black, long sleeves as well.
Oh, okay.
The RF 7200 is white.
Yeah.
So I always carry a couple pairs of Becky, my partner's tights, thick black tights, cut them up, put them over the lens, so the lens is covered as well. So I'm in full ninja mode. And
That's
just
really
have to,
clever, you know?
Yeah. So I'll do that so that it's covered.
I never thought
And
of that.
then, just glue yourself to whatever's going to be like the main camera. You can tell which one is going to be the main shot, because you can only see like the back of the monitors.
Mm-hmm.
And just, this is where the gymnastics come in.
And
And you just got to
document.
bend down and get your shot. Yeah, and get the shots.
And Champion TV series.
Yep, Champion, yeah.
Queen Mary, Girls Stay Away from Us. Domino Day.
Yeah, Domino Day was another BBC.
But it's in combination with Netflix.
Yes, and so was Champion was was
is it-
also Netflix as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does it work in regards of stills? Who has the ownership of those images?
So I would be given a brief on the day,
Yeah.
and I would speak to the producers on what the BBC wanted and what Netflix wanted, because it would differ. But you were still I was for both of those, for Champion and for Domino Day, I was allowed to kind of to be at my own devices and shoot what I wanted, but I'd be given maybe a brief of the day.
Do you
What
think
key
that
moments were happening?
Do you think that there is a golden ticket to get into like bigger sets, or this is just luck and contacts that you make over you're in the world?
Yeah, I think I've definitely been lucky. I've been in the right place, right time. That is part of luck. Yeah. But I think it is, it's building contacts, it's building a portfolio. And then if you're producing the results, if you're producing the images, then there's no reason why then people shouldn't use you again. If your set etiquette is all correct, then.
But they say that in order to move up the ladder, you need to have a famous person in your portfolio.
Yes and no. Yes, it does help. That was one of the issues I had before I started getting some of that work, is that I didn't have any recognizable faces.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had a good, what I thought was a high enough quality work. But that was something I was missing. So, but then that just kind of eventually happens through trying. But then also my commercial work, because I was then getting recognizable faces through my commercial work.
Okay.
But I wasn't getting it through my unit stills work. And so I would then have them from that portfolio.
Is Idris a commercial work?
Yeah, because Idris wasn't on a set. It was a Christmas switching on lights at Sky Studios. So that's how I maybe use that angle to get some more well-known faces into my portfolio.
Some of your current clients are Silverstone down the road.
Just down the road? Yeah.
You kind of like see the race from the
Not quite.
from your house. Drink Bar School.
Yeah.
Are you still doing any sports?
I don't shoot too much sports now, really, at the moment.
Okay.
I haven't in a long time. The only time now is if I go to France and visit my brother, and I might shoot a game then. But yeah, I don't do sports much at all now, other than motorsports, other than Silverstone. But even then,
Motorsports.
When I'm working for Silverstone or Silverstone Museum, I'm not necessarily shooting the actual race. I'm doing more kind of brand activations or like what people, customers kind of showing it busy, or driver interviews. I've done that before for them. So things like that. I might shoot some of the track just for my own portfolio for me.
Okay.
And they use the images sometimes. They'll use them on socials. But I wouldn't say I'm like there with a massive, 400 millimeter lens shooting the track action.
Your client is Silverstone Museum rather than the track.
So for the last 3 Grand Prix, my client was Silverstone Museum, and I was shooting content for them. And then this year, I'm working for the track for the first time. I'm working for Silverstone actual track.
And what are you going to be doing on the track?
I'm going to be shooting on the Thursday and the Friday, shooting brand stuff, marketing images.
Just for the sponsors of the race.
For the track.
Okay. And how did those 2 relationships came to happen, like Silverstone and Trink Park? Because Trink Park is theatre.
Yes, so theatre has always been my background because my degree was in drama and theatre.
Oh, wow, okay.
It wasn't in photography. So I've always been shooting theatre. It's something I've always loved. It's the same as how you shoot acting on a set. I just love theatre, the images it can produce. The lighting can be gorgeous well, and you get these kind of really expressive performances from the actors. Silverstone came about, the first job I did for them was in 2017. That was through a company called TPA, and that was shooting kind of marketing content. And then there was a bit of a gap, and then my partner Becky, she now works at Silverstone Museum, which was the reason why we moved back to Northampton from Birmingham. And basically they were using an agency at the time that they weren't happy with the content of, and she just recommended me and just said, well, my partner's a photographer, so I came in, did a couple of jobs for them, and then that relationship's been built up. And then this year the track got in contact because they saw the images I was shooting for the museum and asked if I would shoot the Grand Prix for them this year. That's how that came about. And then Tring Park School, which is a private performing arts boarding school, that came about in 2022 when James Smith, who's a lighting and theatre technician, I'd worked with him before through various theatre companies in Northampton, for the Royal in Durngate, through Looking Glass Theatre. They needed a photographer because they weren't happy with some of the photographers they were using at the time. He recommended me, and they've loved my work since, and I'm now on retainer for them since 2022.
So it's been kind of a right place, right time.
Yeah, it's a lot of my work has all been through recommendations, word of mouth, more so than anything else. Yeah.
Have you done any courses or workshop in regards of stills, or you learn everything on the job?
No, so I'm completely self-taught or from shadowing other photographers. I've not done any kind of formal training or qualification. The only one day I have done, which I think we spoke about before this, was I joined Gareth for that lighting workshop for one day, simply because I hadn't done a lot of studio work. And even in the studio work I'd done with constant light and not with flash. And so I wanted to get a bit more of an understanding with flash. So I got to join along for one day and just chat to Gareth and also work about and understand his flash shooting.
Do you get a lot of gallery shoots after that, or?
A couple. A couple. Even now, I do prefer constant light. But I've had a couple. So that's both unit stills world and the commercial world.
Okay.
Doing kind of studio setups and studio work. But unit stills tends to be more the way I shoot, being on set and doing setups of portraits on set more than gallery shoots.
When I was talking to Sally as well. She said when she did A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, one of the first images that got released from her was the actress in behind a chalkboard, and I asked Sally, is this image, was this a studio day, or do you plan it? And I said, no, that was just a setup. They were or resetting or doing something, and she just pulled the actress to a side, kind of, there is light here, stand here. I took the picture, and that image got like widely used for the show before it got released. So
amazing.
There is this thing that you don't know where the images are going to end up, or who's going to be.
Yeah, you sometimes have an idea when you take an image on set that you think, okay, yeah, that one's good, that stands out, I reckon that's going to be used. I will sometimes create a folder.
Yeah.
When I deliver and go, these are like my BGR selects. These are the images I think really stand out, and might suggest them. You still never know, and you never know if it's going to get through approvals, but I will sometimes do that. But yeah, setups like that, I mean, it can just be a spur of the moment. If you just see something, you see that really works, you can just try and quickly grab it.
And how do you deliver your images now?
So I deliver through Dropbox.
Yeah.
That's normally the main way I'll deliver images. So sometimes if needed, a password protected link, and I will have one folder with JPEGs in it that I've graded.
Yeah.
And that will then be split into a unit stills folder and a BTS folder.
Okay.
And split by day and by scene, and then the same mirrored but in a RAWs folder that will be all the raw files straight out of camera.
But do you deliver RAWs or DNGs?
RAWs.
Because this is one when I was chatting to Amy, she said it's best to deliver DNGs because not a lot of people know how to operate RAWs or open them.
No. On everything I've worked for on the BBC, on most things, they normally use the graded JPEGs. But I'm still told to deliver the RAWs, so I do.
But you deliver actual RAWs, not DNGs?
No, I think I used to. I did once or twice, converted them to DNGs, but they weren't using them, and that's such a faff in itself. So I think all the recent stuff I've worked on, I've delivered RAWs and had no problem. But when I then see the images released, just that normal, the BBC comedy drama that's just coming out now, I can tell the images are the graded JPEGs that I worked on. They're the ones that are being released.
How do you rename the RAW files then?
I make sure the name, Amy Spinks told me about that. I make sure the name matches the graded JPEG, that's the exact same file name.
Okay, and how do you rename the RAW files? What do you use to rename the RAW files?
Lightroom.
The RAW files?
Yeah, so I input my RAW files into Lightroom, a Lightroom Classic.
Yeah.
That's where I then edit them, export them as JPEGs.
Yeah.
And then in Lightroom, I'll then re-export those RAW files again with the file names so that the file names match the JPEGs.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And then I'll only deliver my selects. I won't deliver the entire RAW files of everything I've shot that day, just the selected RAW files and the selected JPEGs.
Because this is funny, because I was listening to a podcast about Jason, and he says that when it comes to big action scenes and stuff, he delivers all the RAW files. Or that was my understanding. I could be wrong. He delivers all the RAW files because he doesn't know when they come to the posters and stuff like that, they might just use an arm or a leg from one image.
Okay.
In order to make up for the poster, or if there was a mistake and there is an image that they really want to use, but it maybe is cropped to the waist size, they might just get the rest of it from another still that he might have.
Okay.
And that was funny, but all the photographer that I interviewed so far is just they deliver the raw selects. They don't deliver anything else from that. Yeah,
I wouldn't deliver everything. No, just the raw selects. But I mean, I don't know. That's how maybe what the client asks for. Yeah.
Once of your recent shoot that just got released, you traveled to Spain.
Yes, I went to Madrid and photographed Mbappe meeting himself.
Yeah, for the Madame Tussauds wax replica figure.
Yes, it's a figure. Yeah.
It's a figure. How did it happen that you had that job?
So again, and this is kind of the theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
I got introduced to Madame Tussauds through another photographer. She's an awesome photographer called Lauren Perkins. She's based here in Northampton as well.
Yeah.
And Lauren needed for a Madame Tussauds shoot, she needed a BTS photographer and an assistant to help her out. So basically, this is for when the celebrity comes in and you have one photographer who literally photographs like every inch of their body from different angles and close-ups of like jewelry or tattoos and everything. And they're the reference images they make the figure from. And then you have a second photographer who's a BTS photographer who's shooting like the social media content, getting kind of marketing material. And so Lauren asked me to come along and do one of these celebrity sittings as her BTS photographer.
Okay.
I then did 2 or 3 more of them with her as being, she would be the lead tog and I would be the BTS/assistant. None of those have been released yet. So they're yet to come out for over the next year or two. Then Madrid came up. And
hang on, before we go to Madrid, what do you do when you are the BTS photographer? So she's shooting every inch of the person's body for the recreation, right?
Yeah.
What do you take pictures of?
Of kind of, they do loads of little things. So they'll bring up like a box of eyeballs and they'll hold up the eyes next to the celebrity to see if the eye matches. They'll be doing hair tests to see if the hair matches, or skin color tests. There's loads of little things. They'll have reference images. They'll bring up reference images of the celebrity at different events in different lighting conditions. So there's lots of BTS shots you can get.
Okay.
Which is what they'll want for socials. So I'm shooting all of that and also assisting Lauren in however way she needed.
Yeah. Taping cables to the
anything,
floor.
grabbing a lens, a battery, whatever. And then she was unavailable for Madrid.
Yeah.
And so they then said, look, we've had you as the BTS photographer on a number of shoots. We love your work.
Yeah.
Can you lead on this one? And so I then did what Lauren would normally be doing. And I then, flew to Madrid. We set up in our hotel room and we had the figure there and we practiced, rehearsed how he was going to walk into the room, because there was also 2 video cameras. So there's 2 video crew filming it as well.
But who was your BTS photographer? Because
so we didn't have one.
I was in Bristol.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, on this one, it was such a tiny room, and we already got 2 video cameras.
Yeah.
And we didn't have enough room, so I had to do both. So I'm shooting both then. So
and you were taking all what Lauren was doing, like measurements of Killian.
No. So this is when he met the model. So that's already been done. That's already happened.
Okay.
So this is the shoot where he's meeting the model.
Okay.
So it's just getting his the brief was to just get his reaction.
Yeah.
Shoot loads of that, and then get some setups of him with the
model.
The figure.
With the figure. And how did it go?
Yeah, it went really well. So the images have all come out now. They went insanely viral. Of my whole portfolio, it's probably the most worldwide I've ever had an image go, because it was everywhere. It was in all over French news as expected.
Of course.
It was even on like ESPN. It was on like American social media channels. It was all over here. So it's probably the most global I've ever had an image go.
How was the experience of working with Killian?
Yeah, it was lovely. It was class. It was perfect. Yeah, did everything we needed him to do. But this is where, like, if you're working with a celebrity like that, or like when you're on unit stills and they're acting, they're playing a role. I feel like that's where it's more difficult, because they're performing. Whereas when you're doing this and celebrities, they're just being themselves.
Yeah, you're meeting them.
It's easier to get them to do stuff, I think, because they're not performing.
Yeah,
but it was lovely, and we just had to just kind of rehearse it as a dance where the 2 video cameras were going to go and where I was going to go once he walked in, so we didn't get into each other's shot.
How was traveling with Kit?
Traveling kit was fine. It wasn't too bad, because I only brought the 1 camera and 2 lenses.
Okay.
Because I had a rough idea of how we were going to shoot it. I brought my 70-200 with me just in case, but I didn't end up using it. I shot the whole thing on 24-70 with the R3. So 1 camera, 2 lenses. And then I did have to bring my backdrop, the white backdrop. So I put that in a suitcase and put that in the hold. And then I just had, 1 bag with just my camera, 2 lenses in it. And
you took that with you on the plane?
On the plane with me, yeah.
Do you take anything to hang the backdrop in, or no?
No, so they were... Madame Tussauds were also bringing some of their own backdrops. So they brought the stands to hang it on, so I didn't need to bring those. And then also the production company that were flying out, Black Revolver, they're also based in Northampton. They were also bringing the lights, so I didn't have to bring lights. So I got away without having to do a carnet, because I literally just had 1 rucksack with 1 camera, 2 lenses in it. So it doesn't look like you're traveling with like tons and tons of equipment. Yeah, it just kind of look basically like a tourist bringing a camera and 2 lenses.
I bet you couldn't come home enough to edit those pictures.
Oh yeah, God yeah, couldn't wait. And the memory cards were straight out of the camera, backed up, and then I put one memory card in my wallet and kept it on me, just in case, just for anything, because you never know what some flights could be like. They might just go, right, no, sorry, yeah, your rucksack's too big, it's got to go in the hole. So I was like, right, well, I'm keeping this memory card on me.
But how do you back up if you don't have a laptop?
I used laptops there. I used one of theirs and just quickly backed up to an SSD. But yeah, I always shoot to 2 cards in camera.
Yeah, of course.
So you've got
probably
backup as well.
The Kylian Mbappe, that's gonna be a next Idris Elba moment, I think, for you.
I think so, yeah. So on my top of my to-do list for next week, or once I've caught up on editing, probably the week after, is to completely rebuild my website. It's been something I've needed to do for ages. So yeah, that will probably be a feature image for quite a while.
What would you say to what advice could you give to someone that wants to start out as a unit still photographer?
I think if you're starting out now,
what advice you wish you could knew?
Wish I knew back then, don't shoot every take. Yeah. I think also don't deliver hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of images from each day.
Yeah.
Be brutal with your cut and only deliver kind of what's absolutely your best.
What do you think is a healthy balance of image?
It can really depend. It depends on what you're shooting that day.
Yeah, no,
depends if it's a stunt and that or not. I try to aim, I don't know, well, just that normal that's just come out now. I think I delivered between 200 and 300 images a day.
Okay, yeah.
Depending on what was happening. Yeah.
That's between BTS and sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on what's happening on the day. But yeah, so don't overshoot. I think don't be afraid to ask for setups. I think when I first started off, I would mainly shoot unit and BTS, and during takes, I was a bit nervous to ask for setups when I first began, and then kind of learned, no, you've got to do this. You've got to jump in. You've got to go and ask for setups, especially if you can't shoot takes, because you've got another way of getting it. So don't be afraid to talk to the crew, get introduced to the actors and ask for setups where possible.
You use a few brands of cameras.
Yes.
From Canon, you went to Fuji. You tried out the Sonys.
Tried Sony, didn't like it, yeah.
What happened with that?
I tried the Sony A7R3, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I tried out and I just didn't like it. I didn't like the menus. I was missing shots because I was fiddling with the camera. It didn't feel natural. I didn't like it. So, and that's where I fell in love with the Fujis, because everything's on an actual dial.
Yeah, so it's easier.
Just there. It's gorgeous. I'd still miss them. I do really miss my Fuji cameras, but I'm back to Canon now. But yeah, so Canon's probably always been my favorite.
What happened to the Fuji system that you went back to Canon?
So I was doing a shoot in London, which was again for that same producer, Rise Foot Soldier, Tiernan, and we were meeting an actor in his house in London to get some gallery shots.
Yeah.
Did the shoot, went back to my car, which was in Leicester Square underground car park, left the kit, took the memory cards out and my laptop to go and review the images with the team. And someone must have been watching me, because then I came back and my car had been broken into and all my kit was stolen. So all my kit gone. And that was all the Fujis, everything gone. Luckily, though, I didn't lose the images from the day because I had the cards on me. And had to go through the long, grueling process of getting an insurance company to pay out. I had to fight it because they wouldn't pay out originally.
And how long took them to
Took
pay?
a year arguing with the insurance company and getting the financial ombudsman involved to eventually get them to pay out. And then that's when I then made the switch from Fuji to Canon. So I had to rent for a time. I had to rent Canon equipment for about a month or two until I then had to take, I got a loan from my granddad. I was very fortunate that he lent me money to buy at least one camera. I bought the R3 and 2 lenses, the 70-200 and 24-70, and then I paid him back when the insurance company finally paid me out. Yeah.
What insurance company you use now?
I'm with Hiscox now. Yeah, now.
Any problems?
I haven't made a claim.
No,
I've had no problems with them whatsoever now. So that's why. But I mean, you never know until you make a claim.
Yeah, of course. It's really hard to choose which insurance to go with, because you wish you don't have to talk to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But at least it's that peace of mind. Talking about gear that you shoot Canon now, what do you think of the 24-105 2.8?
I haven't used it yet. Yeah, I suppose I haven't needed to, because the 2470, 7200 is a nice, a perfect range. It covers everything. So I don't know. I haven't had a chance to get a hold of one yet.
I always have this thing of what would be a perfect setup for someone that wants to start out, and whether it is worth just making a big investment up front and thus lasting you for a while. And something like the 24 to 105 being 2.8, I think that it's a great range for the indie world, because
definitely.
you're not. When I was shooting indie, I wasn't using a 7200 because there was no need for it. We were like in tight spaces. You would normally be allowed to be next to the camera, so you wouldn't need to be like using a telephoto lens.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And so what's your take on it? Do you think that is worth like making a big investment right up front, or is it better to go through the ladder of equipment?
No, I can see. I think because a lot of sets tend to be low light, 2.8 is probably a must.
Yeah.
If you're only going to have that one lens, if you're not going to buy any primes, you're probably going to definitely need a 2.8 lens.
Yeah.
You can get the Canon cheaper primes. I've got the Nifty 50.
Yeah.
The 1.8.
Yeah.
They might be worth just having as a backup.
Yeah, I have
to get some low light primes.
I have that as a backup.
Because they're quite cheap. Before you go like all out and buy like, you know, some of their crazy expensive primes. I don't know. On tight indie films where it is like small spaces, a 2470 or like your 24-105 is probably going to be the lens you're going to use the most. Then in more of my commercial sets that were bigger sets, and when you do get onto bigger stuff, a 7200 I would be using just as much. Also, I find sometimes even on tight sets, it's really hard to get a clean shot, a clean angle without a boom in it or a operator in it or something in it. So then a 7200, so you can get at least that close zoom shot, can be really useful. Yeah. So it depends. But a 24-105, then at least you've got that little extra reach. Might definitely be useful. But then this is if you're shooting Canon, depends on whatever system you're shooting.
The reason why I ask you is because Canon is the only company that has a 24-105 2.8 all the way.
They're pushing their like hybrid.
They're pushing a lot of hybrid stuff, and I just think it's a great lens.
I'd have no reason to buy one having already got the 24-70. But if you're starting out, I can imagine it's a great lens that gives you. There's got you can like save that money for a 7200 for a few months, so you don't have to make the investment of two lenses straight away, and after that you're just praying for work in order to pay that back, sort of thing. So. That was my take on it, but I only have like a few more questions left. But for you, where would you like to be in 5 years, man? Oof. In regards of stills, is that a dream job or platform that you would like to be involved in? And I've been fortunate enough to work on a few, but I haven't worked on many horrors, and I love horror, so I would love the chance to work on a horror feature. I think that could produce some really great images.
That's a low prime, that is.
Yeah, it will be. That'll be when I'll go for it and buy the 85mm 1.2. But I'd love the chance to work on some horrors, because that's just one of my favourite. And some like I don't know if you've seen some of the Unit Stills work from like the Evil Dead films, the remakes that are coming out at the moment.
No.
Some of the images from those are incredible. So something like that would be really fun. I am having a baby in July.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Man, that's like, 2 months
So that's going to shake things up a little bit.
God.
Only 2 months away. So Unit Stills might have to take a back seat for at least a month or two.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll just continue my work with Tring Park School, where I'm still shooting theatre, what I love to do.
Yeah.
Then I'll dive back into set. So I don't know. For the next 5 years are going to be very interesting to see how that'll play out.
Especially now that you're having a baby, that's a lot of time you need to accommodate yourself and learn the new rhythm of things that is it's going to be like really challenging. But
so we'll see. And Beck will be off work. Becky's off work from June. So we'll see how all that plays out. And then whatever the next thing is, I'm fortunate that I'm working at the moment. So I'm currently shooting Silent Witness for BBC in Birmingham.
I just feel like everyone done Silent Witness.
Yeah.
Every single photographer has like a Silent Witness on their
credit.
Yeah.
I was like that with Killing Eve. Like when Killing Eve was filmed, like every single photographer I knew seemed to be working on Killing Eve.
Sally as well did Killing Eve and Silent Witness, and I was like, every single one I
Yeah, yeah.
interview, like it's been on those shows. Man.
Yeah, it's just it's good. It's good fun. It's fast paced, but I'm loving the images I'm getting from that at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? Who knows what the next thing? Obviously, I've got Silverstone Grand Prix coming up. That's a nice big event. I've got a few commercial shoots in London coming up, a few bits and bobs. But yeah, so
There's always something in the horizon.
hopefully, yeah, we'll see. He said it is the industry is obviously very quiet at the moment.
Yeah.
We're not filming anywhere near as much as we used to. So I imagine for anyone starting out, it is tough because you've got highly experienced photographers who are out of work. So that trickle down is going to be even more difficult right now. So yeah, hopefully just enough work to still keep going.
Ben, thank you so much, mate.
Oh, thank you, Rigo. Cheers. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I really hope that you enjoy it. And if you did, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know down below who would you like me to interview next. Until then, I'm gonna see you on the next episode.